You want to hear them, not me? Go.
There we go. We're going to skip right past the introduction slides there. My name is Matthew Ebel, and thank you guys for coming out here today. To my left, like you said, is Ariel Hyatt, who is synonymous with the independent musicians who are trying to actually run a business, like a business. She's been helping musicians out with her book, Music Success in 9 Weeks, and has been making some waves. To her left is Ted Cohen, who's been doing artist development with small, teeny, tiny indie bands like Prince and Fleetwood Mac, and of course, to his left is one half of the Dresden Dolls, and unless something horrible happened, both halves of Amanda fucking Palmer. So, why don't you, ooh, something got screwed up with the, well, never mind, you can see the slide behind me. So, why don't we start with Amanda? Why don't you tell us how you've been using the real-time web, as they say, to take over the world?
Well, I started my band, the Dresden Dolls, in 2000 in Boston. I actually walked here. I live like 10 blocks away. And, you know, we started our website in 2000, and gradually, because of all of the interaction I was doing kind of organically with my fans, starting with, you know, fan mail, email, and stuff like that, and then MySpace. I've been able to, over the last couple of years, ditch my management, ditch my major label, and basically run my entire music career, which involves international touring and selling hundreds of thousands of records, more or less through the internet. And the last record I put out a few months ago was a digital-only release with special vinyl packages for my fans, and it was really successful. But I mean, I have a lot more I could say about that in terms of what successful now means, because I think music success and artistic success is different than it used to be. But I use Twitter on a, you know, daily basis. I tweet all the time, and I've done extraordinary things using it and my blog to basically to run my business and to stay connected with my fans and to connect with other artists. And I think, I mean, I can go into a little more detail later. I'd love to take questions from people. I think that would be the most interesting thing to do, but that gives you a kind of an overview.
Well, specifically, I mean, is there anything that surprised you about how things like Twitter and Facebook updates, you know, the immediate aspects of using the web? Is there anything that really surprised you as to like, wow, this shit's really amazing?
Yeah, I mean, I had a real revelation this past year on tour. I was doing a tour throughout the States and throughout Europe this last spring. And, you know, I've been on Twitter for well over a year, and I've been using it in really interesting ways, like giving away tickets to shows, finding places to stay, you know, equipment breaks at shows and fans just show up with it. And I was just on a tear for a while. I was like, Twitter will fix it! And actually, like, a lot of times people thought I was nuts, but, you know, I was looking at artists much larger and technically more organized than me, not being able to get as much done as quickly because they weren't going directly to their fan bases for answers and solutions. And I was like, you guys are fucking crazy. You've got 500 people outside standing in line. Why are you sending a runner from the club to go across town to buy you batteries? Like, send someone outside. They're bored and they're waiting. And I was literally just in real time with my fan base saying, this is what I need, this is what I need, can you go get it, can you do it, can you help me? And everyone out there was going, yes, yes, we will. And all of a sudden I was just realizing life was becoming easier, faster, and cheaper because I was harnessing the power of the people who were excited and willing to help. And so I had my fans feeding me and my crew, housing me and my crew, and I was saving tens of thousands of dollars on the road. And granted, I needed a staff to help me literally run my Twitter feed and my blog, but even that was more inexpensive than, you know, the traditional way of doing things. And really watching that work on the road in the last year has been a mind-blowing experience, and I've been sharing my experience with other bands and saying, you know, you may think you need a large promotional old-school machine of management and promoters and agents to do all this stuff, but a lot of it you really can do yourself if you have a small fan base that's devoted to you.
Well, speaking of the traditional route. Ted, you've worked with major labels, you've worked without major labels, and you've worked with some huge heavy-hitting acts before. How are you utilizing Twitter and tools like it?
I just still buy ads in Rolling Stone because those are really effective. Really effective to spend 20 grand for a full page in Rolling Stone. The artists that I advise, most of what I do with Tag Strategic is we do digital consulting for companies that are trying to use music to create an audience. But I also got involved with a couple artists because I shoot my mouth off about what I think works, and I figured if I worked with a couple artists, I could actually find out if I was wrong. And I did learn quickly some of the things that I thought you might refer to as digital stunts, getting a feature on MySpace Music or getting a feature on iTunes or whatever. Those things are all great individual moments, but if you don't string them together correctly, it's a firecracker going off somewhere. It doesn't really mean anything. So, having gone the big route, literally you mentioned Prince. Years ago I was here with Public Image, Johnny Rotten. We went to a baseball game down the street. And then it was getting an article in the Boston Globe and going by BCN, which I understand is gone. I didn't know that. And now it's about utilizing, as Amanda said, utilizing your fan base and reaching out to people, and not only being a voice for yourself, but being a voice for other artists that you like. And some of the things that we see that are really effective are when somebody, when an artist turns people on to other music that they like. So really helping, without being trite, lifting all boats. So when Jeff had me speak at one of the first conferences in New York a couple years ago, there was an artist that Jeff Jones mentioned that had 500,000 Twitter followers, and all he started doing was tweeting, buy my record, buy my record, buy my record, and his audience shrunk overnight to like nothing. So it's not it's not a pure commerce route. You got to create a dialogue. You got to create actionable things. One of the best moments I had earlier this year was at South by Southwest, when for the first time, it was her right here. She started sending me direct messages saying, you've got to come to this club to see
Jill
Barber, who was brilliant. And if you don't know who Jill Barber is, check her out. But it was 12:30 at night. I was torn between watching a Law and Order rerun or going to hear some more music. She and a friend, Rindal Laurel, started tweeting me individually going, get over here, get over here. At South by Southwest, if you're familiar with Austin, all the clubs are like basically in a 3-block radius from like this building. And you could see where your friends were, and you could see what was going on. There was only 20 people in the room, but I felt like one of the 20 luckiest people in Austin. So, following people getting people to follow you, their influencers, really critical, and having an honest dialogue.
Now, Ariel, you've been, I love your nail polish, by the way. Works rather nicely.
We always match when we speak together.
I've just got a top coat.
Yeah. Well, you've been working with artists who have never had, some of them have never had a budget, never had, major label support, that kind of thing. How has this been working for you and the people that you work with?
So my book is called Music Success in 9 Weeks, and it has nothing to do with music. It has to do with taking yourself actually out of your music head and applying basic social media tactics and traditional marketing tactics, which unfortunately, it's very intuitive to someone like Amanda and very not intuitive to your average artist who did not get into the music industry or into playing music to market themselves. And so my book and my firm and pretty much everything we do came out of utter frustration of trying to explain to artists that it's one thing when you hire someone onto your team to do something, like Ted can call in a favor at MySpace and get his artist on the front page. If that artist doesn't take responsibility and follow up, nothing will happen. And so we take artists through a pretty rigorous conversation if they'll engage us with it and
Yeah.
say, look, it's now up to you. The cavalry ain't coming. There is no magical fairy godmother or father of the music industry, as my friend Derek Sivers always says, and you have to be responsible. And it's not intuitive to understand how to have meaningful two-way conversations from behind a computer screen when your brain is wired to connect your art in person or in other ways. So that's what we're about. And yes, we do work with a lot of emerging artists. Many of them never really get out on the road. Some of them never leave their homes. But no.
I leave my home.
But
Yes, but only with that ankle bracelet.
many of them don't have the opportunity to get on the road and do large-scale touring. They're local or regional artists, and it's teaching them how to connect with more and more people so that they can get to where they want to go.
Yeah, I found that the